SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi's citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov. Show was previously recorded.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Man, yeah, and a delightful one it is out there. I enjoyed a quick trip down to Macomb, Mississippi, Pike County, addressing the Macomb Rotary Club. Great folks down there. Really enjoyed being with them and talking a little bit about stuff going on. It was really good. Good folks. And one thing I noticed, Rhino, on the way down I-55 there, I spoke in New Albany back right after the ice storm, about a month after the ice storm or so. And I noted all the down trees along the route as you get kind of in the northern tier of 55 there. And then, of course, all the way through New Albany, that route through there. Well, there's a section, we had the tornadoes that came through not so long ago. There's a section in Lincoln County, which was hit pretty hard. Lincoln, Lawrence, and Lamar counties hit hard by the recent outbreak. And just as tornadoes do, it's a stretch, not very large. Pine trees are just twisted up and down and completely topped. Just nothing but stalks standing up from the ground. Just amazing the power of those storms. But what an interesting contrast you would expect to see in Mississippi, where you got down trees from an ice storm that came through in the northern counties. And then you got the down trees from tornado that came through in the southwest counties.
I don't know. It might be argued that you'd only see that in Mississippi.
That's true. Where we kind of have all the climates in one state, right? Man, oh, man. And it was just
we're
that.
Also one of those states that's perfectly positioned to usually get ice instead of snow.
That's right, which is more devastating typically. I think the difference was the area affected by the ice was much larger, of course, than tornadoes are, than the wind effect of the tornadoes. But the ice, pretty much you see the entire tree just kind of falling down. But with the tornado, it's like it's been ripped off. And it was just a small stretch. You know how there's some areas of 55 where you got a pretty wide median, and it's usually planted. It's treed up and other foliage. And it was just that small stretch right there at Brookhaven, Lincoln County. Man, I hope everybody is recovering. I've seen some reports on that. I know some folks are still without their homes, of course. Their homes were completely devastated, and they're trying to manage that situation, still taking donations, I believe. So, man, let's pray that the destructive weather, at least, is out of here for a while. Delightful today for sure. It's more like typical May weather. That's one of my favorite months of the year. I think most people would agree with that. May and October, similar in terms of the temperature range. You get those big high pressures bright blue skies, low humidity. So enjoy.
And the northern half of the Magnolia State today can brag and say that they are among the nicest weather in the country.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So,
according to the weather people.
How about that? Well, let's enjoy it. Let's celebrate it. So appreciate Dave filling in. Wow, what'd you let everything go all hell in a handbasket, as they say, in a short 48 hours? Stuff happening on the national scene, stuff happening, of course, here in the state with the governor saying, yep, we don't need this special session. I know he was on with Richard yesterday. That has actually made some national news because in focus, of course, is redrawing the congressional districts. I think it's fair to say that on the national landscape, the special session called by the governor to reconfigure the Supreme Court districts, that's more of an issue that has some applicability within our state, not on the national stage. The national stage, in the national political landscape, the concern more, of course, is about what does this redistricting look like as it relates to the United States House of Representatives. Now, in the state of Mississippi, we have 4 districts, as you know, although our Constitution thinks we have 5. At least vis-a-vis the ballot measure process. Who did that, man? Golly. Oh, this will never change. This is permanent, right? But I digress. So that's what's going on. Now, the governor, I believe, came out yesterday, Rhino, and he was on Fox News yesterday. Like I said, some degree of national news because we are one of those states that could, based on control of our legislature by Republicans, could redo these maps in such a way that Congressman Benny Thompson would have to return to Mississippi. And he would no longer represent a district that pretty much is a shoo-in, the way it is drawn now for him. And I just want to once again appeal to the people that continue to support him and send him to Washington. He is not in your best interest. You would do much better. In fact, he harms you. He would do better if he went bye-bye.
Remind folks that he voted against the pumps while his own constituents were underwater.
Incredible. That's just unfathomable. But let's send him home. And I promise you would get better. You know what they would have a hard time understanding? You and I talked about this, and we've actually posed this question to Representative Robert Johnson last week. He's the House Minority Leader, a Democrat from Adams County. And I know they have a hard time comprehending it because they've been told all their life Republicans hate you. You would get better representation. And I believe the quality of your life would improve, and that in Mississippi, if your Congressman Benny Thompson were replaced with a high-quality Republican candidate and representative. I do believe that. And they would say, no, that's not possible. Republicans hate us. They're racist. They're this, they're that, right? All the stuff that they define us as. We got to make an effective appeal and deliver a message that resonates with them. I go back once again, I know I'm repeating myself, to the president who I think handled it perfectly when he ran the first time. What do you got to lose? Try something different. It ain't working out very well for you. These people don't care about you. They care about power. And the only thing they ever promise, but never works out as promised, is I'm going to take their money and I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to skim off the top while I do it. That's pretty much their entire policy agenda, which is misguided and misleading at a minimum. So what do you got to lose? I do think we ought to pursue this, but the governor said between now and the 2027 elections. So it's not clear whether or not that means something would get done. He'd call them back. Let's redraw it. What we do with the fact that we've already had primaries, that's a legal question. It's over my pay grade. I've heard numerous opinions and slants on that. I don't know what the truth is. on that at this point. I'm not sure anybody does. And it's one of those things that's in the so-called gray area, right, that at this point we're not really sure. But that's what the governor said, that, yeah, I'm going to take on this redistricting project. Now, I believe that the president could, I think, apply some pressure to the governor. And I think the governor has a great relationship with the president. And if the president does that, the governor just may see fit to go ahead and get that done now, before the midterms. But my guess is, knowing the governor, that he's going to make sure that there is some path, some legal, mechanical way to, I guess, negate the primaries we've had and recontest those. Because otherwise the president wouldn't really benefit from it in terms of the remaining 2 years in his term. I think he's wanting to make sure that, and all seats count, that the Republicans maintain control of the House for his remaining 2 years after elections this November. We shall see. Interesting issue for sure. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio, Gordon Fellows on at 11:05. He's president of the Mississippi Bankers Association, because it looks like we got us a new Fed chair. Stay with us.
This show was previously recorded.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Appropriate bumper music for this next segment. Appreciate that, Rhino. We're pleased to welcome Tony Malone and Mike Couch. They are co-hosts of Forging Alliances. That's a local show on Super Talk Meridian. And we ran into you guys at the Neshoba County Fair last week. Enjoyed that. Of course, we were broadcasting live, and we talked about getting you on, coming over here, and telling the folks exactly what you do and why that's important, especially given that this is the 250th birthday of our country. What do you think?
That's right, Gerard. We appreciate you having us on. And, yeah, we met at the Neshoba County Fair, and great event up there. So, yeah, celebrating our country's 250th anniversary of freedom. What an event, and we're excited about that. Our show, Forging Alliances, Mike. And you know, it's funny, I got to thinking, and Mike and I were both coming over here this morning thinking about Forging Alliances. Okay, so this was a brainchild of Mike's several years ago, right?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago, he started thinking about how a platform that he could go either on the radio or TV or some kind of an outlet, media outlet, and come up with an idea called Forging Alliances. So him and Shelley, our GM over at SuperTalk in Meridian, came up with this show idea, and then they approached me with it and said, we'd like for you to be the voice. So I said, okay, that sounds great, because honestly, I'd been searching for something to get into myself. But Mike and I have known each other since boot camp back in '79. So we forged an alliance back then by going into the military together.
Okay.
And Mike has spent 26 years, retired veteran from the military, and I spent 6 years in. Okay. So Forging Alliances, I Googled that this morning. I said, okay, we're going on this show, we're talking about Forging Alliances. What does that actually mean? Yeah. So I'm going to read it. It means to build strong, lasting partnerships or cooperative relationships through hard work and shared goals. So we encompass that idea because everybody, every family somewhere has a veteran or has somebody that has been in or is in the military to date, right, Mike?
It touches every family somehow, and military and veterans are the fabric of our country, being 250 years of freedom. So we want to embrace that, and they're the fabric of all small communities around the country.
Amen.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially Mississippi. I mean, right there in Meridian, we have a Guard base, we have a Navy base.
Yeah.
Both of those are huge training facilities. Navy base trains Navy pilots and also trains Marine pilots. Look at Columbus Air Force Base. And then you have Camp Shelby. So we have Keesler down on the coast. So our state is inundated with large segments of veterans and people that are currently serving in the military.
And there's a lot of Army Guard bases and armories throughout the state, too. Especially Mississippi is really blessed with quite a few.
Indeed, no doubt. So both of you gentlemen served, as you just
Correct.
said, Tony. So which
Mike
branch?
stuck it out a lot longer than I did.
Which branch?
Air Force. Air Guard.
Air Guard.
Okay.
Force.
Yeah.
Air
Awesome.
Guard.
Well, of course, on behalf of all of Mississippi and America, thank you for your service.
Our pleasure.
That's always the proper response there. We appreciate that. This is great, and I feel like that the attitude towards those who serve in the country's uniform, guys like us have been around a while. We've seen sort of waves in that, right?
Most definitely.
My brother served in Strategic Air Command during the Vietnam era, and that's just a period of time that it's kind of sad in our country where so many of those guys, as you know, they were just called to do a duty by their country. They weren't involved in the politics of war and so forth.
That's right.
Their country called, and they went away and they did it. But unfortunately, they didn't receive the sort of welcome that and praise that they were entitled to when they returned, especially out in San Francisco. You remember the stories of going through the San Francisco airport and they're out there spitting on them and crazy stuff like that. And that, because that happened while I was alive, Vietnam, 55,000, as you know, lost their lives. I think average age of someone in country was 19 years old. They're just kids, man.
Yes.
With bullets flying around their head.
Exactly.
And most of them left straight from high school. That was their senior trip.
Yeah, exactly
Vietnam.
right. 100%.
And that's I think of it now, it's crazy.
It is crazy. But I feel like the tide has turned on that, and that Americans now realize that these guys, they sacrificed for our freedom, and they did what their country asked them to do.
That's exactly right.
And this country, as you guys know, is unique in that civilians control the military.
Right.
The military just does what the civilians tell them to do, and sometimes they make mistakes when they make those decisions, but nonetheless, it's still a much better system than we have in other countries.
Oh, most definitely. And that's the platform right there. We wanted to, Mike wanted to have a platform that would honor veterans, honor the people that are serving in the military, law enforcement, special operations people. We have interviewed, Gerard, this is like pouring water on the ground, this show is. It's going in such all different directions. It's like herding cats.
Yeah.
We got to figure out how to kind of streamline this, and we're learning as we go. We've only been doing this 6 months.
Right.
I've only been on the radio for 6 months. But it's a great platform to be a part of. I'm honored that they asked me to, Shelley and Mike asked me to be a part of this. I do want to read one thing, and this kind of give the audience a little bit of an idea. So forging alliances exist to unite veterans families, first responders, law enforcement, and community leaders through radio and social media platforms that connect people, strengthen communities, and inspire positive change. We are committed to building meaningful relationships rooted in faith, hope, and service to create a lasting impact.
That's awesome.
That's our mission right there. And we have been blessed. We have interviewed. Let me back up. Our main sponsor bought into this show before we went on the air. Rope Solutions, Russell Williamson with Rope Solutions. And Russell bought into this program, and he bought into it heavy. we're trying to live up to that, and I believe we are doing exactly what he and you and Shelley had envisioned for us to be doing.
Absolutely. And what Russell Williams does with Rope Solutions is phenomenal. He takes veterans and gets them transitioned after their military service and transition them back into civilian work.
Sure.
And they go into the oil fields and teach them what they've learned in the military.
Special operations guys.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Delta Force people.
That's awesome. So creating opportunities for these guys so they can earn a living, take care of their families.
And taking what they've learned in the military, their strategic information and learning, and putting it over into the civilian world.
Yeah.
And companies are buying into this. I don't think it would be too far out to say Castle just signed on with Rope Solutions in Meridian.
Yeah.
So he's gone international with this company, and kudos to Russell, and thank you so much again. Big shout out to him for believing in us in that.
That's incredible.
And believing in the military, guys. That PTSD and suicide affects military quite largely.
Absolutely.
And transition is one of the ways that is hardest for them. What you do in the military don't necessarily equate to what you do in civilian life.
Yeah.
And this gives them an avenue and bring what they've learned in the military to private sector.
Sure.
And I applaud that, really like it, and that helps bring the communities together some too, and reduces the stress of transitioning.
Yeah. What kind of reaction have you gotten from the audience? Have you had some folks that have approached you and shared
I think
their
our
thoughts?
numbers. Our numbers pretty well show that, don't they?
No, I think so. And we've had a lot of good response from it. And like Tony was saying, we've interviewed some really amazing people with stories. Lone Eagle Honor Flight, which flies veterans to Washington and to visit all the war memorials there, aging veterans, especially our Vietnam veterans.
Yep.
And then we've
MI6 guy that ran MI6 in London. We've interviewed him.
That's
so I mean,
cool.
that's cool. It's like pouring water on the ground again, Gerard.
We got a break right now, but if you can hang with us since you're in the studio here, let's keep talking.
Would love to.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yep. We got Tony Malone and Mike Couch, co-hosts of Forging Alliances on SuperTalk Meridian. We're coming right back.
This show was previously recorded.
We all hear the radio.
This show was previously recorded.
Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. In our studio, we've got Tony Malone and Mike Couch. They are co-hosts of Forging Alliances, SuperTalk Meridian. So, Tony, the state of Mississippi, it always feels like, is a favorable place for members of our military, both active and veterans. Unfortunately, there's some areas of our country, as you know, that don't think very highly of those who wear our uniform. I don't see that, honestly, a lot in Mississippi, and I hope that's the case for you guys as well.
Yes, most definitely. We were talking with Alex out there before we came in here. How did we wind up? Are we from Mississippi? My dad was in the military for 30 years, and we wound up in Meridian at his last duty station, and we stayed. And that was it. I've been here ever since 73. And Mike,
all right. My dad was in the Air Force and took a job in Birmingham, then transferred to Meridian. We've been here ever since.
Awesome.
So, You know, we were talking off break there about most families, if you did the demographics, just about every family is affected by somebody, a service member or a person that's been associated or affiliated with the military. So out of the three of us in the room, all three families have been affected.
We all got
by
stories.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's a huge platform for us. As Mike stated, we have interviewed some amazing people. Guy that did 5 tours in Vietnam, leader of MI6 in London. We've interviewed these people. They're not all war stories, though. Not everybody comes on and tells us their story, but they tell us what they've done in the civilian life that the military life prepared them for. And also, we've had people on, like Drew with Vets Vet up in Hernando, that helps veterans find the money or the disabilities that they're looking for that they can't do on their own. He has devised a company called the Vets Vet. Big shout out to Drew. And he helps these people find these different areas that they can, of help that they're so needed.
Yeah.
We've also had the American Legion and the VFW. They do a lot for our communities, and they're kind of like the unsung hero. They've got all kind of different programs that helps families, not just of veterans, but in every community.
Yeah.
And
so, Mike, you know as well that we have veterans' homes scattered about the state of Mississippi and the country, of course. And I have a good friend that he's a little too old to do it anymore, but he used to travel around and provide just a little bit of entertainment to those guys on a monthly basis. And I kind of helped him out for several years with the funding of that. But and I wanted to be in the background. I didn't want them to know that I was involved just because my respect for them. But he would tell me often that they literally don't have any families remaining.
Right.
That some of these guys are laid up in these homes. They're incapacitated. They have no family.
They've outlived their families.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And through Stronger Together Foundation, we have young people that are up and coming in the music industry.
Yeah.
And they go into these homes and play music for the veterans.
Yeah.
And kind of cheer them up.
It's entertainment,
and then the VFW, American Legion, visits on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
Because they've outlived their families.
Incredible.
So they've still got their military family.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
sure.
That's a foundation that you started.
Yeah, Stronger Together is a foundation Eric Smith and myself started about 5 years ago when we unite families that's been affected by suicide.
Okay, yeah.
And we lose 22 a day.
It's incredible.
Suicide, but their families, are left to move forward, and they struggle. So we help them and give them resources to move forward, and we work with other organizations.
I got you.
Fifth Squad being one of them right here in Jackson that we work with. Very, very good group.
So, Tony, you handed me a flyer on the break. You've got the Traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall coming to Meridian, correct?
That is correct. That's another brainstorm of a Mike. He is the brains behind this project, obviously.
Give me too much credit.
And I just do the talking. But Mike had the traveling wall through 3 years ago.
Right.
And this is a huge 400-foot-long Vietnam Memorial Wall. It's a replica of what's in Washington.
It's a 1/3 size scale.
Size scale.
Okay.
It's massive. It's amazing. But along with that, we've got the traveling tribute too, which it covers every war from World War I up until present day. Over 620,000 heroes will be represented in the East Mississippi Veterans Park in Meridian on October 8th through the 11th. And we're going to try to honor the families and the veterans and the deceased, and we also want to educate and inspire a whole nother generation.
That's correct.
And on the 4th of July here in a couple of days, we're going to celebrate, which is great. These heroes give us the right and stood up for us, so we can celebrate and we can enjoy being Americans and free. But then come October, come out and join us at the East Mississippi Veterans Park, and let's honor the men and women who stood up and paid the ultimate sacrifice.
That's right.
For us to be able to do the things we do in this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely.
So you were saying earlier, Mike, you guys told me on the break, surviving one tour in Vietnam was an accomplishment.
Right.
But what'd you say, 5, 6?
Yeah, we've interviewed a couple of different gentlemen. One had survived 5 tours in Vietnam and 1 4.
1 4. Yep, exactly. Before show, I try to get these people in or talk to them on the phone. Say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me a bio so I can bring you into the show. And this guy's, well, I don't really know much about myself. When he got finished, I had a page and a half, and I looked at him, and I'm seeing 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star, and I'm like, unreal.
Good grief, man.
Unreal.
And so humble about it.
And so humble about it.
Gosh.
One guy we were interviewing, he said, Tony, and he was out in Texas working an oil field with Rope Solutions. He said, Tony, I've been overseas in Afghanistan and all the different places over there so many times I lost count as a special ops.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow.
Lost count.
You watch movies about these cats.
Yeah.
And then when you get one in the studio and he's staring at you and you're like,
that's so rare, isn't it?
You're the real deal.
I mean, you're in rare air.
You're the real.
That's incredible.
Rare air. Exactly. Russell was kind of like that when we interviewed him.
That's amazing.
He came in the studio, and I was just looking at him, and I'm thinking, and then I go on Facebook, and I see a picture of him in the whole get-up, and I'm like, that's the real deal right there.
Golly.
Unreal.
That's incredible.
We've had all kind of incredible people on the show, and that's what makes it fascinating. And people can relate to it and kind of see what these guys have done. We had one gentleman on there that survived a free fall.
Sure did.
And lived to tell about it.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Sure did. Paratrooper survived a free fall.
Free fall, man, and lived.
Yeah. And then I walk out and I'm thinking, Lord, thank you for the life that I've lived and what you've done for me in my life, because, a lot of these guys suffer from PTSD, severe PTSD. But like you said, they are super humble in their approach to us, and whatever we need from them, they're just open to us. And it's a blessing. It really is.
Right. And they're sons of someone, their fathers, their husbands. They're real people in the community. And it's just great to see everybody interacting. And we're trying to promote veteran-owned businesses, veteran-supported businesses, and small community businesses as well. Our smaller mom-and-pop operations seem to be suffering nowadays, and we've got an endless supply, or veterans are an untapped resource. There's a lot of us.
They really are.
And we can support these smaller businesses in our communities. And like I said before, the veterans are the fabric of our communities.
And then we have many, of course, in the prime of their working years that serve in the Gulf region in the various conflicts. Yep. And I think we all know several of those folks as well.
Yep, exactly. Right. And, our show doesn't necessarily focus exactly, the centerpiece is not exactly the veterans, but it's community support.
Sure.
It's law enforcement, first responders.
Yeah.
People that are in our community that, man, we're just trying to forge alliances.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
I mean, that's the bottom line. And it's been a complete blessing for me. I was looking for an outlet I'm retired. And once you retire, Gerard, man, people start coming out of the woodwork wanting you to do different things.
You're right.
When Mike approached me with this, they had approached me several years ago about doing the radio. I said, man, you got the voice, you got the face for radio, thank you. And, I'd say, well, I'll try to do something one day. And then they came up with this, and I was like, man, I'm all in.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
Well, I know you guys do a great job. I think it's a great idea, a great concept, and I'll just end by saying this. We get a lot more good stuff accomplished when we work together than when we work separately.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you're trying to do here with Forging Alliances, and we appreciate it.
Exactly. God bless you. God bless us. God bless our families. And God bless America.
Amen. Tony Malone and Mike Couch.
Thanks for
you
having
guys.
us on.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother.
Tony Malone and Mike Couch, co-host of Forging Alliances on SuperTalk Meridian. Check it out. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
This show was previously recorded. This show was previously recorded.
We interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge news. Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
On the C-Spire text line, my mom tells a story about Greenville High School once hanging the Greenwood High School, maybe the sign, what do they mean there? From, I think they left the word out, from the uprights way back in the day, definitely crossing a major line.
Maybe the mascot?
Mascot, yeah, possibly. Yeah, tell us what that is. That's on the 662. Appreciate that. Yeah, so, yeah, harmless pranks, right? And it seems like we don't think about harmless pranks anymore. It's why has it got to be destructive? It's ridiculous. What did Mo said? Yeah, they were adult former students. We had somebody else tell us that as well. Jerry from Tupelo said that was on the news. It's a shame because, like you said, as seniors, it's customary to have a little fun like that, and you should be able to do that without harming anything, stealing anything, damaging anything, hurting anybody. It's pretty simple. But we can't do that anymore. We had, when I was senior class president in my high school, customary to be involved in hanging the flag every day on the flagpole, which was out front of my high school. We all parked in the back. There was kind of a front. That was for the teachers and guests. They had a circular drive with the flag in the middle of it, and that was right by the main entrance to the school. And so the day that first day that folks that come in and visit your school for accreditation, I don't remember the name of the organization, but they do this Southern School Accreditation or something like that. But they're the ones that come in, mark you up and say, yeah, okay, you're good to go. You're accredited. Well, that particular day, because it was out front, nobody could see the flagpole unless they drove to the front, right? Well, I had this idea. I got, as you can imagine, put up to it. Instead of hanging the flag that day with all these dignitaries from this accreditation group coming in, I hung Schlitz beer cans. I'm telling on myself here. And oh my gosh, the principal called me into the office, and let me tell you what he did. He wore me out, and then when I was leaving, he said, hey, Gerard, personally, I thought it was pretty funny. I don't like these people. You're not surprised at that, are you? Oh, my gosh. I said, okay, I'm not going to have him call my parents and tell them what a bad boy I was. I put the beer cans on the flagpole. Oh, my God. Harmless, though, right? Harmless. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the flag, Good grief. On the C-Spire text line, is Tate delaying the redistricting to put himself in position to run for that seat? No, I don't think so whatsoever. I just think it's a controversial issue, and I think at the heart of that is the fact that we've had our primaries. And that would raise a stink. My guess is even if there's some provision in our law that kind of tacitly allows that, somebody's going to sue. And chaos would ensue. And this could be a situation that, I don't know, goes to our Supreme Court, and maybe they find some federal law being violated, like they always try to do, and take it to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Who knows? And that just ties the whole thing up and creates chaos. So I'm quite sure those are the discussions happening behind the scenes. And let's see, on the C-Spire text line, since the Mississippi Supreme Court lines are good, will Tate finally name someone to fill the vacancies? It's been several months. It's a good question. I don't know. But since the court has said, nope, your districts are fine the way they are, that is in the governor's job jar right now. True, totally true. I'm afraid, this is Louis from the 662, I'm afraid that we have a growing population of people who have no interest in excelling in life. They are perfectly content with existing as long as they are taken care of by the government. So for them, their perfect representative is Benny Thompson. I actually agree with you, Louis. I think there are a lot of people, I like to say, they're satisfied with mediocrity. And that's a shame. And I would say, once again, Rhino, and folks may disagree with this, it starts in the home. Starts in the home. You're not being inspired by adults while you're growing up to do great things, mainly because they didn't, and nor did the generation before them. So we've seen this going on now for about, 50, 60 years? And it just propagates. It continues. But yet, are these not the same people certainly their representatives are, that complain about the people who do seek to excel because they got rich doing it, right? They get mad about that. And so, to that end, now you got what appears to be, have you seen this guy? Guys, a new 2028 poll shows that the front runners are Marco Rubio and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who now has legislation that is sponsored by a number of Democrats that would increase the minimum wage to $25. In other words, you're not going to produce any more for society. We're just going to pay you more and squeeze employers and make it almost impossible for them to operate their business, to even be a viable business. I know that's second-order thinking that they simply don't understand and don't want to. But it's politically popular, right? Unbelievable. The other thing is, as we've talked about before, 1.8% of the workers in this country earn the minimum wage. Coming right back after Fox News and SuperTalk News.
This show was previously recorded.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. Middays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy.
All right, so we, those who are listening over the air, they are hearing us on the stations not covering the Ole Miss baseball game. They're playing in the SEC tournament today, facing Missouri. I think in the second inning, up by a home run earlier in the game, and that's it. We're all buckled up, ready to go. We got Don Redmond, spokesman for AAA Mississippi, on at 10:35 today. He'll talk about the Memorial Day travel weekend and what we can expect with respect to gasoline prices and just overall travel expectations heading into the summer. I guess Memorial Day, official start of summer.
A lot of people consider it that, yeah.
Seems like just yesterday we were talking about ice storms moving through here, right? And then we've got Robert Johnson. An encore performance, shall we say. Coming on at 11:05. He, of course, a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives. He's the minority leader, represents District 94, which incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. Vice Chair, House State Affairs Committee. We'll get his take on the governor calling off the special session, the entire redistricting discussion, and I've never really thought, Rhino, that Representative Johnson aligns with the far left wing of the Democrat Party, but I am curious as to what he thinks, for example, about Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City. He's going all in on this New York City-owned grocery store situation. And you probably saw that he has really ignited lots of controversial discussion, shall we say, in his reference to a statement made by President Ronald Reagan many years ago, where he said the 9 most frightening words in the English language, or I'm here from the government and I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. And Mamdani says he disagrees with the president on that the most frightening words, 9 words, are, I may boo-boo on this, I don't have the quote in front of me, but I worked hard all day and I can't afford to feed my family. Something to that effect is what he said. And, geez. So his solution to that, of course, is to stand up grocery stores that are actually owned by the government. Because their solution to everything is more government. And he actually said that. I mean, he made references to his belief that the government can address and solve a number of societal problems. He really doesn't make any bones about that. That's what he believes. Oh, boy. And what's really amazing to me, I guess it's what I pay attention to as much as anything, is he made this statement as part of a speech, and he's surrounded by like-minded people. And when that came out of his mouth about, I worked all day and I can't afford to feed my family, all those people are just shaking their head in agreement. Yeah, oh yeah, right. I'm wanting to say, why aren't you working so you can feed your family? But again, looking to government to solve these problems. Okay, so you need to improve your financial situation. Government is not the solution to that. That's what is missing in that discussion. You know, the other thing, of course, missing in that discussion, Rhino, which, of course, requires some second-order thinking. Were it not for the private sector and the incentives afforded by capitalism, there wouldn't be squat in the grocery store. Oh, wait, let me back up. There wouldn't be a grocery store. I don't think they've yet figured that out. I just don't think they have. And
well, they're the kind of people that think chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's just amazing how clueless people are about this sort of stuff. And he's doubling down. He's allocated $70 million to develop a grocery store in each of the city's boroughs. Yeah, I worked all day and can't feed my family. Right. That was his exact quote. I found it. So he says when government understands its purpose is serving the very working people that it has left behind time and again, it can make a difference in the most pressing struggles facing our city today. Translation, let me take some of those people's money and give it to them people whilst I skim off the top and receive some sort of personal, twisted, perverted gain in the process. That's what's missing. Oh, man. More government is not the solution here, though that is what Zoran Mamdani asserts. So I'm just curious as to where Representative Johnson fits on this spectrum. If he believes that this is a role of government, that we need more government. Would he support such a move here in the state of Mississippi, for example? Just curious about that. But he's coming on at 11:05. And then we had a late addition I saw this morning from our content director. I believe we've got Commissioner DeKeither Stamps coming on at 12:20. He's going to discuss the SEARUC. That's a conference going on for public service commissioners. That should be an interesting discussion as well. And by the way, speaking of New York City and now these full-fledged Marxist policies that I think are going to harm the city, already we're seeing notable affluent residents of the city say, I'm out of here. And Mondami's all mad at them, and Hochul's all mad at them as well. You ran them off with your stupid policies. Our capital city of Jackson, a recent report indicates that the population has fallen to 145,995, making it the fastest shrinking city in the U.S. with a population of greater than 50,000. This is all done by professional demographers. They rank Jackson as 198 out of 250 cities on Geography of Prosperity Index, the Geography of Prosperity Index, citing, are you shocked at this, governance issues. So the demographer, an individual known as Bradley Sherman, says, I noted strong civic pride among residents in recent positive downtown investment by a developer. And the gist of his analysis is the uphill battle the city has in expanding its economy. The city lost 3,766 residents from 2021 to 22, over a year, a net loss of 3,700 people. So really not a good trend for Mississippi's capital city. He said, I have to tell you, downtown Jackson is pretty jarring. I took the train from Memphis, walked through downtown. Everyone who I met there was kind, courteous, generous. But the first thing I noticed was desolation. I feel like during my time there, I saw maybe 10 people on the streets. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
This show was previously recorded. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so awesome.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Appreciate you joining us today. So this report from this demographer about the city of Jackson says the people that I did see were a couple of police officers, some government workers, and a TV reporter. So they're just nobody around. Of course, so many of the structures, the storefronts, offices, and so forth are just empty. They're not occupied. And that's the reason. You don't see many vehicles either.
And then the ones that are occupied tend to close up shop.
Yeah.
6, 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so the drag on Jackson, he says, this demographer comes primarily from governance and foresight. The city scored 19.5 out of 100, putting it at a rank of 231st of 250, way below the national average and pulling the composite score down, of course. So, no doubt, we have work to do there. I do think we have improved leadership in the city. with respect to Senator Horn, who's now Mayor Horn. But I'll say again that I really believe that the problem in the city of Jackson, most of the problems are rooted in the procurement system and policies used by the capital city. Honestly, it's a discriminatory process, and they have engaged in that practice for over 30 years. It prioritizes vendors, partners of goods and services to the city based on what they call minority participation. It actually is racism, in my view. How is that any different other than it's procurement versus drawing out districts for public office where the Supreme Court says you can't do that with a racial bent to it? How is that any different? We're engaged. It's
all based on the misguided notion that you can defeat racism with racism.
100%. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what's going on. So I've maintained for years that I believe the problems that exist in the city are largely rooted in that practice of prioritizing vendors based on their race. There's so much focus on that. Let me see if I can get some money to these vendors because of their race, and then they take victory laps about it. You know what I'm saying? So look at me and all the money that we spend here at the city on these minority contractors. Not a focus on the outcomes and the results produced by said contractors. And that's not, I know somebody out there could misinterpret what I'm saying. That's not saying there aren't qualified minority-owned business contractors. Of course there are. But that shouldn't be a major factor in procurement decisions and contract awards. But it is.
If you value that criteria more than saving tax dollars, then you are not being responsible with the tax dollars.
It's exactly right. We end up, the result of those policies, our costs are at a premium. Our spending is at a premium. And often we get inferior goods and services because the quality was very secondary to the minority participation. And this is going on across the country. This is not unique to Jackson, but it's largely found, of course, in Democrat-run cities. And most of them, as a result, shambles. It's something that Joe Biden instituted. There's always been a problem with that at the federal government, but he ratcheted it up significantly. And it wasn't just in procurement. It was in, as you know, in hiring and promotion and compensation and job assignments. He made it clear. Yeah, it's got to be included in all policy, all decision-making. You got to consider race, gender. That's crazy. That's just not right. And it doesn't achieve the best outcomes. Anytime you're forcing this diversity and inclusion practice, anytime you're forcing that and it doesn't happen organically, you're not getting the best outcomes. That's just a fact. Meanwhile, out in California, while we're talking about it, a championship track meet forces a trans athlete to share the top podium spot with a female. A.B. Hernandez won the long jump by over a foot, high jump by 2 inches, and triple jump by nearly 2 feet. Because it's a...
Student address.
It's just crazy. Man, oh man. So, how can this male be excited about winning this championship over girls? That just makes no sense to me. What kind of person thinks that that's something to be proud of? And then you can clearly look at this individual and know that they're a male. So this is something that California permits. And I'm looking at the awards ceremony with him squarely on the top box there, receiving the top medal. It's just unbelievable. Now, I do remember that the president said that if you engage in these practices of allowing men to play in women's sports, that you're going to lose some funding. And after this occurred last week, the president on his Truth Social platform said California, under the leadership of radical left Democrat Gavin Newsom, continues to illegally allow men to play in women's sports. This week, a transition male athlete at a major event won everything and is now qualified to compete in the state finals. As a male, he was less than average as a competitor. As a female, this transition person is practically unbeatable. In all caps, this is not fair and totally demeaning to women and girls. Bravo, Mr. President. Agree. So he says that large-scale federal funding will be held back, maybe permanently, if the state of California doesn't adhere to his executive order, which says you can't allow men, boys, to compete against women. It's incredible how upside down this country is over this craziness with respect to dudes in dresses competing against females, and just the whole radical gender ideology that has swept the country. Also, a track team in the North Carolina State Championship had an opportunity to three-peat, but they lost out because a runner was disqualified for raising their hand as they're running. I'm not sure what the problem is with that, but apparently there's some rule, and I'm looking at a photo of it. He's kind of got his hand raised, not fully, elbow bent. What's that all about?
I didn't dig too far into it, but from what I did read, it's a time penalty that's added to your race time if you are deemed to have participated in unsportsmanlike conduct. That's
considered. I wondered if that's what the deal was. I mean, there's no physical advantage you're getting running the race in that respect, right? You know what's crazy is
the claim was that the person was taunting because they were showing where they were going to put their next ring.
I see that now, the way they've got their hand raised. Okay. So, DQ for that, but all the dudes in dresses you want, come on and compete, right? That's what's upside down to me.
I don't know if it was a DQ or if it was just time added to their time, which meant they no longer won.
Okay. The report I saw said that runner was disqualified.
They might have disqualified him.
Which
I was
of course,
under the impression it was a time penalty.
Either way, they failed to three-peat as a result. Coming right back with Don Redman with AAA Mississippi.
This show was previously recorded.
If you're about to start,
this show was previously recorded.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. I ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of push and broom buys an 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Don Redman, spokesman for AAA Mississippi. Hey, Don.
Hey, how you doing? Great lead in tune. Like it.
Awesome. So, what do you think about the current travel situation with the Memorial Day weekend approaching?
I think that we're going to stay with our forecast, which is a new record number of people overall, about 45 million Americans traveling for the holiday. A lot of the plans were booked before the war with Iran, and though the gas prices are higher, I think that when people look at their overall travel budget or their vacation budget, gasoline price overall doesn't play that big of a role. Now, that's not to say if these prices continue, and right now we're looking at a statewide average about $4 a gallon, into the summer, well into the summer, that may absolutely have an impact once we talk about the Thanksgiving and Christmas travel, because the long-term impact on disposable income of the family definitely will be eroded if these high prices continue. And, it's hard to say what's going to happen right now. I know we're constantly asked, what will the prices be by July? I don't even know what the price is going to be at the end of the day. I mean, it's that volatile. But we've been seeing, at least for the past week, prices hovering around $4 a gallon, kind of steady. But again, most people who plan this vacation have everything is pretty much baked in. And some of our AAA members from Mississippi like going to Orlando this time, as well as Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, those area, and even Branson, Missouri, some are popular destinations. But typically, wherever there's water, that's where people are going to be heading. So Florida's a big draw.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, is your organization not expecting any significant decrease in the Memorial holiday travel as a result of the spike in the price of gas?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have found historically. Just the gas price alone doesn't determine whether people travel or not, but it's how they feel about their individual income, how they feel about their personal economy. And I think that, and we have examples where we saw, and one of the most extreme examples that I could call immediately was after the terrorist attack of 9/11. Gasoline was virtually $1 a gallon had fallen, but nobody was traveling. No one felt secure about traveling or feeling safe about the economy. There's a lot of things. So even you got prices, and I think after you remove taxes at that time in Mississippi, it was like 50 cents a gallon. Nobody was traveling. So just gas prices alone don't determine that, but it does have an impact long term. So if we now, we've gone through 2 months, almost 2.5 months now into higher gas prices, I think we're still going to be in it, even if oil prices drop dramatically overnight. It's still going to take at least 30 days for it to work through the gas pump, if you will. So these prices are going to be with us into the summer. The big question is going to be, how will that change travel plans for November and December?
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. So are you seeing any major price adjustments in some of the other aspects of travel? Lodging, for example, restaurants, food. Is that something you guys also track for your members and share?
We do, from car rental to hotels, restaurants as well, just trying to get the overall. Most of that has stayed relatively flat, but again, as the inflationary pressures get placed on food items and other things, you'll start seeing that reflected in those prices. That's why I think, again, people have been booking for this Memorial Day travel for the past 60 days or longer. They're going to feel the cushion, but for those who plan to travel for 4th of July, I think then you're really going to see an uptick in prices for hotel rooms, dining out, those type of things. So what we typically see when these higher prices start occurring, people are still going to take their vacation, but they may not stay as long, or maybe they're looking for discount hotels. They may even brown bag it rather than going out to eat on their road trip. So with this corporate culture of you use your vacation or lose it, people are going to use it, but they just do different. I would expect our state parks to really get a good workout for this summer. People they want to get out, but maybe not travel as far, and look at more economical recreation opportunities such that the state parks afford.
Yeah, makes sense. So looks like maybe, Don, we'll see folks opt for more economical options to still enjoy their vacation, take their time off, travel, and so forth, but just figure out a way to work all the expense in their budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking for discounts at hotels, restaurants, those type of things. Yeah. And, maybe not stay as long. Instead of 4 nights, maybe stay 3 nights. That
makes total sense. So what about here in Mississippi? How do things change with respect to visitors coming into our state, traveling into our state? What happens with Memorial Day and thereafter, and what can they expect when they come here?
Yeah, I think for Memorial Day that weekend, you can still expect good crowds. For those areas that are popular for tourists and out-of-towners to come in, I'm thinking immediately of the Gulf Coast and other areas, your golf courses, those resort areas are still going to be really in good shape for Memorial Day. I think the bigger concern will be how will it look in July with the continued higher prices, and I expect these prices will carry with us into July. And then we might see a little change. And if these prices, if we're looking at $4 a gallon or higher, July, August, I think we'll certainly see diminished number of people who are going to make those tourism trips in the fall. I still think, say, cruising the coast will probably still be very popular. But, there may be other destinations or other events people are just curbing back, depending on the long-term effect of these higher gas prices.
Yeah. And something else, of course, that's occurring is the price of travel by air has spiked considerably as well. Do you think, Don, that means more people will opt to travel via traditional vehicles on the road rather than flying?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're looking at, for this holiday, a record number of people flying. And these are, again, people who probably booked their flights a while back.
Yeah.
Those are probably getting a sticker shock right now who are trying to book in the near future. So, yeah, there's no doubt, except for those who may be planning to go on Alaskan cruises, which are very popular with our AAA members. Now, most of them have booked those cruises back in December. And they'd be heading out, but so there's not really a driving option, a viable driving option. But everyone else who's maybe planning to go to other destinations who are going to fly there may very well consider driving instead and trying. It's the more economic, the more convenient way to travel.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've seen some reports, Don, other than the issue of the price of crude oil spiking. And, of course, that being reflected at the price in the pump, which causes pain for travelers, that potential shortages of motor oil, which vehicles need, certainly combustion engines need. Are you familiar with this? Have you seen anything about that?
I have to tell you, this is new to me. I have not heard that there's a big concern of potential motor oil. I'm not familiar with that issue. I'm definitely research that because that's a big surprise there. I mean, I know that jet fuel and diesel are big issues. Diesel is almost $2 more a gallon than it was this time last year, and it's one of the leading exports in the U.S. When we talk about what the U.S. exports, diesel is one of the top of the list. It's a big demand in Europe as well as other places around the world. So, but diesel, that's going to affect everything we're paying for. But if you talk about motor oil now being an issue with that, and it's usually, again, these are things that are made usually in the winter where gasoline production is off. So it's like, okay, let's make jet fuel, let's make diesel fuel, let's make motor oil, those type of things. So that's very interesting that might be an issue. I had to look at that. Yeah,
and I came across it last week. I know it's kind of obscure. It hadn't gotten the great deal of attention, of course, that the price at the pump always does. But I just checked it out. Literally 2 hours ago, a major news outlet says, quote, auto industry braces for motor oil shortage. So, I mean,
boy,
it's just more.
The hits keep coming.
Yeah, I know exactly. So now, who knows? What's going to happen? But it just says 3 rounds of price increases over 2.5 months is unheard of, and the magnitude is stunning. I've been in this business since 1979. I've never seen anything like it. And that's the founder of Petroleum Trends International. Interesting. So
that's fascinating.
Maybe something to check out.
Yeah, definitely no, because that's a concern for all of our membership.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we honor with our members is having quality auto repair, including oil change. So
sure.
Geez.
Appreciate it, Don. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Don Redmond, spokesman, AAA Mississippi. Coming right back.
This show was previously recorded.
Polyup, Mississippi.
This show was previously recorded.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. You know, one of the things that folks are concerned about with respect to elections, the deep fakes being used. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this country that just can't tell the difference between a legitimately produced ad and a deep fake political ad, especially the older folks, the seniors in our country that aren't as accustomed to staring at their phones and their screens all day and sort of learning that discernment. So Representative Thomas Massey, we got some text on that today. He, of course, is fighting for his seat in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, the Bluegrass State, today. At the polls, the president has really pulled out all the stops to defeat him. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth traveled to Kentucky for a rally supporting his opponent in opposition, of course, to Representative Massey. But he raised the alarm about AI-generated attack ads that falsely showed him in a romantic scenario with two liberal Democratic stars. He warned that it could mislead and rattle older voters. He's holding hands with Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, checking into a hotel under the tagline, Thomas Massey caught in a throuple. He says it reeks of desperation, but they're holding the older generation, hoping the older generation won't realize it's an AI-generated lie. Wow. So expect more and more of this, honestly. I heard this morning about a lawsuit that was filed by an individual who does not have counsel. There's I think a Latin or a Greek or some sort of technical legal term for that when you're participating in a lawsuit and you're not represented by a bona fide lawyer. Can't remember the name of it.
Pro se.
That's it. Per se.
Pro se.
Spell it.
P-R-O-S-E.
Okay. What's the derivative of that?
It's Latin, translates to roughly for oneself or for one's
pro se.
behalf.
Yes. All right. So, but this particular lawsuit, this individual is using AI to generate a mountain. Well, the original suit, the complaint, and then a bunch of follow-on pleadings and other documents. And, of course, it costs money to deal with that on the defendant side in this particular case. You can't just dismiss it. You have a right to take
Unless
somebody
you
to
use
court.
AI to fight back.
That's exactly right, and I've wondered the same thing. But, you know, that's the thing about our system. It's a beautiful system in that it's available to everyone, right? If you've got a grievance,
I'm just
a bone to
picturing
pick.
a procedural court drama, and the prosecution stands up, pulls out their phone, and presses play, and it's just, we, the prosecution. And then the defense stands up and holds up their phone, presses play. We the defense.
The problem is, even though I certainly respect and appreciate your right, again, to seek some sort of mitigation, some sort of compensation, action, whatever the case may be, depending on the suit itself, if you feel like you've been done wrongly. But on the other hand, if you're a defendant, you got to pay your way out no matter what. That's what I don't like. Maybe
that's the main reason every major corporation and many small businesses have legal counsel on staff or on retainer.
Absolutely, but that still costs money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's costing you, whether it's third party, external, or it's internal. But you know what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if the facts are on your side, if you did absolutely nothing. Many times, certainly in a business perspective, your insurer is going to get involved. And they're likely to recommend a settlement just to avoid the cost associated with a protracted suit. And the other side knows we can just keep dragging this thing out, investing a little money at it, and finally they'll come to their senses and they'll say, Uncle, and they'll write a check. I don't like that aspect of it. And
welcome to what happens when the legal system is infected with liberalism for the last 7 decades.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. And it's largely anti-business. It really is. And that's a problem as well. I mean, it depends on the court, the judge, the jury, and so forth. But in general, they tend to lean more towards individuals if there's an individual suit against a business. Fox News, SuperTalk News, then Representative Robert Johnson.
This show was previously recorded.
This hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We thank you so much for joining us today. It's our pleasure to welcome now Representative Robert Johnson. He serves, of course, in the Mississippi House of Representatives, representing District 94. That incorporates Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson counties. He is the minority leader in the House and the vice chair of the House State Affairs Committee. Representative Johnson, good to have you back.
Thank you for having me back, Gerard. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Same here. So tomorrow was supposed to be the day that you guys were going to head back to the Capitol, called back by the governor to redraw our Supreme Court districts, but a turn of events there as a court basically said, no, the way they're drawn is just fine, no need to take any further action. So what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I think, when I think back on the session when we were considering the new Supreme Court districts, the governor's position then was, look, I don't agree with redistricting. I don't care what the court said. Leave the districts like they are. Yeah. And after the Calais decision, and the court order was vacated by the Fifth Circuit, essentially the governor got what he wanted, and so I guess after he thought about it, even though he had said he wanted to call a special session in 21 days, he wants the districts to stay the way they are. There's not much more he'd like to see done with it. Yeah.
Well, did it come as a surprise to you the way the other court ruled and kind of bucked the original order?
I was kind of surprised, but I had the opportunity to talk to the parties on both sides. The the state's position was, nothing needs to be done. After Calais, the plaintiff's position was, well, we probably need to retry this case under these new rules, and they feel pretty good about it. Just as out of an abundance of caution, that if there is a ruling, they want that ruling to be consistent with whatever the new Supreme Court position is. And so both parties agreed. That was sort of a joint agreement to vacate the order that they were about to operate under. And let's go back, and they're going to retry the case and see under the new parameters laid out in Calais.
Okay. So
yeah, I was a little surprised, but not really. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've probably seen that there are a number of folks on the right who are calling for the governor to convene a special session to redraw our congressional districts and I guess to recontest the primaries in advance of the midterm elections. Of course, they're calling for the ouster of Congressman Benny Thompson, who represents Mississippi's 2nd District. I'm sure you're hearing about this. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's, a little bit, I find it kind of strange. I mean, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago in 23, when we did redistricting, we actually advocated for taking more Democrats and African Americans out of Benny Thompson's district, and giving him more of Madison County and all of Hinds County. And Republicans said, no, we want him to have a more packed Democratic African American district. We wanted to do it this way. And so for people to be calling for redistricting when they actually got what they want, not only did they get congressional districts the way they wanted them, they got enough redistricting to get a supermajority in the House and the Senate. And so I don't know what else there is to do in Mississippi. I mean, there may be room to do these in other states, but Mississippi has done what everybody else is talking about doing now. African Americans, 90% of the African Americans in this state are Democrats. 40% of the state is African American. There is one Democratic congressman and one African American congressman, and they're both the same people. And so I don't know where else you're going to go. But let me say this: nobody's talking about this, but the camps, the Trent Kelly camp, the Michael Guest camp, the Mike Ezell's camps, they are all not publicly and openly saying anything, but saying, hey, leave him alone, because if you mess with him, he'll mess with us. So there's a lot of pushback on both sides coming in about this issue in Mississippi.
Interesting. What are you hearing on the ground there, Representative Johnson, from your constituents about this whole redistricting discussion?
Well, my constituents are in more of an uproar than I actually am. They see it as a threat to democracy as they know it. There was a long and drawn out fight 40 or 50 years ago, and continues to be, for African Americans' votes to be counted with equal weight in the state of Mississippi. And to a certain extent, the Voting Rights Act helped facilitate that. Now, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but the other thing the Voting Rights Act did is facilitate the packing and the creation of more safe Republican districts. Republicans have benefited more from the redistricting under the Voting Rights Act right now, the way we are situated in the state of Mississippi. Just look at the numbers, look at who we have elected, and look how things stand than African Americans. So if there's work to be done, there's work to be done on both sides.
Gotcha. I guess what just bothers me and maybe intrigues me a bit about it is this perception, at least, that African American people can only be represented appropriately by African American elected officials, and that just seems to be, I guess, just counter to common sense in my view. I'm not sure that the desires of the African American population in our state and the white population and what they seek in their lives is materially different. It's just a matter, I guess, of how to achieve that, how to implement that, and it just feels like that there's this, again, I think it's a misconception. I can only be represented by somebody who looks like me. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's your perspective is interesting because if you phrase it the way you say it, I don't disagree with you. And historical facts bear it out. I mean, up until the last 25 or 30 years, African Americans were pretty much represented by just white elected officials.
Yeah.
And we've always voted for white elected officials. But what I would flip around and talk to you about is how many African Americans do you see voted or elected statewide? How many elected? We don't have a one elected as a congressman. And it appears that it's not so much that African Americans can only be represented by African Americans. The problem is nobody seems to vote for African American candidates except African Americans. And so if that's the way we're going to operate in the state, we want African Americans have insisted that, look, if you're not going to vote for us, then at the very least give us an opportunity to elect people, give people an opportunity to be elected who we will vote for, even if you won't vote for them. I'll give you a perfect example. Back in 2003, when Tate Reeves ran for treasurer for the first time as a 28-year-old banker, and I don't want to diminish his job as a banker, but he was 28 years old. He was a banker, but he hadn't been a banker long. But he ran against a gentleman who was a graduate of Itawamba Junior College, Ole Miss, had worked in state government for 10 or 15 years. I mean, on paper, if I didn't know he was an African American, I would, just based on where he went to school and where everything else he had done, I would have sworn he was white. And he lost an election to a person that was arguably not quite as qualified and not quite as credentialed as he was. And the only difference is one was white and one was African American. Gary Anderson is as middle of the road, easy to digest as anybody out there. And for some, when you have a candidate like that and he still can't get across the finish line, it just, we all were saying, okay, this is the shot. This is one that we can get done. But it didn't happen, So I want to believe like you believe that if we just go out there, we have 50% districts that people elect the best candidate. And I'm going to tell you, I think we're getting there. When you look at what happened this last round of redistricting legislative district we have, none of those districts were more than 51%. But those Democrats, who also happen to be African Americans, won not in close races. They won pretty convincingly. And they didn't need 55% or 60% African Americans in that district to vote for them. And clearly, there were white people voting who voted for them and felt like they were the best candidate. So we're getting there. We just ain't gotten there yet.
We're up against a break. Can you hang on with us for another segment?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great. We got Representative Robert Johnson on the line. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
This show was previously recorded.
For a flipping good time.
This show was previously recorded.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, onto the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk Mississippi.
My daddy spent his life looking up at the sky. He cussed, kicked the dust, saying, son, it's way too dry. The clouds up in the city.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We've got Representative Robert Johnson on the line. He serves in the Mississippi House, of course. He's the minority leader in the House. So, Representative Johnson, before we went to break there, you were talking about using as an example the 2003 state treasurer's race that featured the eventual winner and the current governor, Tate Reeves, the Republican. He defeated Gary Anderson, the Democrat. And there was also, I think, a third-party candidate, if I'm not mistaken. It was pretty close, 52,
it was.
Something like that. But
it was close.
But
and look, I mean, I don't agree with everything that Tate Reeves does politically or where he stands politically. In fact, very little. But I mean, he's done depending on what side of the aisle you're on, he's done a good job. He has done at least a competent job as in all his positions. I just disagree with him, but he's done he's been good at what he does. I just don't like what he does. So my point is that politically, we had an opportunity with two candidates to elect. One of them was African American Democrat, the other one was Republican, but neither one of them were polarizing individuals. They were just both good candidates, and I don't know if we fielded one as, I think when Johnny Dupree ran against Phil Bryant, I thought, on paper and based on what he had, his service, I think Johnny Dupree was a candidate that was a great candidate and a great governor for the state of Mississippi. So we just have not had success in a state that's 40% African American, having people who are white vote in a high enough number to elect African Americans. So we're left with the perception that, we can only get elected if our folks are voting for us. But now look, we vote, across racial lines and party lines all the time. We just don't get, it's not reciprocated at the same level. That's been my experience and the experience of most African Americans.
Okay. Well, I think there's a little nuance and a little expansion of that discussion that's required, though, because there's a lot of factors, as you know, that figure into elections and who ultimately prevails in elections. But you'd have to look at the outcome there and say that the fact that Gary Anderson received 48% of the votes indicates that he got more than African Americans to vote for him. He obviously peeled off some white votes as well, but I'm just not sure how big the race issue is a factor, or the race of the candidate is a factor in these elections. I don't really feel like that Mr. Anderson was defeated because he's a black person, or that we still have progress to make just because of that race. I feel like that's a point you're trying to make, Representative Johnson. And maybe
it is a point. It is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
And my perspective is just different than yours. I feel like he lost because he was black.
Okay.
I mean, I'm waiting on the people of the state of Mississippi to prove me wrong. But I mean, that's the way we operate. Look, people tell me all the time. Look, if you get the right candidate out there, it wouldn't matter whether he's black or whether he's white. You just need a good, strong candidate. We feel like we fielded some. We've had some, and we have not had that kind of success. But again, I use the latest legislative special elections as an example of people who clearly got elected with a impressive number of white votes. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. Not only would they not have won, but they won convincingly. So maybe we are getting there. Now, some people would say, well, look at somebody like Rodney Hall, who won in DeSoto County. He's a Republican. He's African American, and clearly he got elected by people, white Mississippians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's true. I mean, if you are conservative enough, or you're there, that happens. So some people have suggested that maybe more African Americans ought to join the Republican Party and run as Republicans, and that would be fine if some of the things that we find are important and in some areas where we feel like African Americans have not been adequately served, that running as a Republican would be fine. But we have not seen that happen. I always use it as an example. We have Republican leadership in the state, and you can tell where the money is spent based on the leadership. If you're a governor or a speaker or a lieutenant governor for everybody in the state, why is it that there's such a discrepancy in terms of where we spend not only state money, but the federal money that comes in the state? Where does it go? I heard somebody say the other day, it was Mike Hurst, who said, just look at what Benny Thompson has not done for his district. Benny Thompson has been responsible in the last 7 to 8 years, more than $8 billion of federal funds coming into the state that goes straight to the legislature or the governor's office that should be spent overwhelmingly in his district, because he has the poorest district, the district that needs the most infrastructure work, all of that. But we take that money and spend it somewhere else, and no Republican other than Roger Wicker voted for any of those COVID funds or any of those ARPA funds that were brought to the state. Now, Wicker and Palazzo were very instrumental in getting work and funding for Ingalls Shipbuilding and some of the refineries down on the coast. But for the state of Mississippi, I think arguably if you had to look at the money that's been sent to this state from the federal government, the person who voted and advocated for it the most has been Benny Thompson. And so I think it's this whole move, we got to get rid of him and call him a reign of terror. When I drive through the Delta, Benny Thompson has as many whites, not as many, but he has a fair number of white supporters, people who support him and vote for him.
Interesting. So one thing I did want to point out, you said ARPA. I heard you mention that. Not a single Republican, as you know, in the Congress voted for the ARPA program, not either in the House or the Senate. Yeah. So Senator Wicker did vote for the Infrastructure Act under Joe Biden. He did vote for the CHIPS Act. By the way, I was critical of both of those votes. I thought that was bad policy, and I think that's proven out to be.
But you're right.
Yeah.
Why would you think it was bad policy?
I'll tell you what, exactly. I'll tell you exactly why. Because we are running $2 trillion deficits. Every time we appropriate money like that, we borrow half of it. I think that's insane.
Okay. Well, you're probably right, but I can tell you in the state of Mississippi, that money was spent, and people bragged about spending it. Republicans and Democrats.
You're right, and I criticize them. I want you to know I criticize Republicans for bragging about that money, especially when they opposed it. You can't, on the one hand, say, hey, we got to be fiscally responsible, which I as a Republican, as a conservative, believe it. On the other hand, we're lauding the flow of money that's being borrowed. That makes no sense to me. So,
how do you feel about the tariffs? How do you feel about $1 billion a day being spent on the Iran war? And when we got farmers who need help, and we have. And I don't mean help like welfare help. I mean like help like they have surpluses of soybeans and products that are sitting around and we don't have anybody to sell them to. I mean, that is a big, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, well, I've indicated on this program in my speaking, writing, that to the extent that tariffs are used where currency's been manipulated and foreign governments are subsidizing industry, I think that is decent policy, but just for retaliatory purposes, I don't think it is. And I'm fully aware of the impact that's had on the agricultural community here in the state of Mississippi, the nation as a whole. With respect to Iran, I think if the outcome that the president has indicated he expects to achieve, which means that they're denuclearized and can never produce a nuclear weapon, it will have been worth it. But I admit I'm skeptical of it at this point, especially since he called off attacks today. I don't know what the ultimate activities or actions that are necessary to bring this thing to a close. I personally think we're going to have to send troops on the ground into the country to find the uranium, capture it, and get it out of there, is what I think. And that's not a popular thing in this country.
Yeah. Well, I thought we had captured all of it or destroyed all of it, but that's clearly not true. So, I mean, but I only brought that up because that's another discussion.
No, I get it.
We're talking about the debt. Yeah.
Well, I don't. I don't. A lot of debt. Yeah, and I don't agree with the president's proposal to spend another $500 billion on the military. I've said countless times on this program, and Rhino's chimed in with me as well, is that until the military can pass an audit, I'm not forgiving them any incremental money. I still have concerns about the massive amount of money we sent to the Department of Defense that they can't account for. So I think that's an issue.
And the thing that bothers me is it's not going to rank and file veterans. It's going to huge defense contractors. And look, we need defense contractors. We need weapons. We need ships and airplanes and those things. But Republicans and Democrats, in my opinion, and I talk about this all the time. This is not new. We have lost sight of individual people or families or what people need to be productive and how you get an economy going by moving commerce. And if you create jobs, it'll all return to you. Nobody thinks about that. Everything is
we gotta go.
Tank idea.
I got you. We got to go. Appreciate it, Representative Johnson. Thank you, man.
This show was previously recorded. Now Show was previously recorded.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back to everyone. Lou Graham and Foreigner bumping us into this segment, Head Games. We appreciate Representative Robert Johnson for joining us today. So, right now I have to say that I'm pleased that we were able to turn the conversation into a policy discussion. That's what it should be. And I still believe there are numerous factors, of course, that figure into the election systems in elections, I should say, in our country, in our state. There are many more things just than the color of their skin. Now, just as Representative Johnson says, he believes, I think I'm accurately representing his position here, that a highly qualified African-American candidate cannot prevail, he said, in a statewide race in Mississippi. And he cited a race from 2003, 23 years ago, that was super close. But I don't know that I agree that Gary Anderson was more qualified than Tate Reeves. And further, can I just say this? Do you think people really understand what's qualified to be an auditor, the vast majority of voters?
Well, it's treasurer, but yeah.
Treasurer, excuse me. But it applies to auditor, too. My apologies. That race was for treasurer. Thank you. That's where Governor Reeves served 2 terms as treasurer. It's because I typically do say auditor when I make that statement. It's one of those things you kind of scratch your head and say, does it make sense to be voting for these offices? And I know a lot of people say, my gosh, I've got to be able to vote. I can't possibly empower, say, the chief executive, the governor, to appoint, which is what we do at the federal level. The cabinet secretaries that run these various agencies, such as Treasury, they are such as, which, by the way, includes the IRS, which has a significant audit function. Of course, I understand it only applies to taxes, tax returns. But I think a lot of factors play into who wins all political races. I'm not sure that you see a lot of distinction among candidates when it comes to, say, running for treasurer or auditor. Now, there may be some candidates out there that are running that disagree with me, and that's fine. And here's what I mean by that. You don't make policy. I mean, you have a little latitude there, but for the most part, it's an agency that is dictated by law. And it's a matter of carrying out and executing on that law to operate those agencies. So it's I don't know that being a Republican, a Democrat, or white or black shouldn't enter into the equation here. It really shouldn't. In the case of auditor, for example, I mean, your job is to conduct audits that are in accordance with the accounting principles for governmental entities. Now, it's absolutely true that as part of that function, you're to find irregularities and act on those in accordance with the law. And, man, to me, that shouldn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or white or black. That's a binary thing there. You either did something wrong or you didn't.
And that's part of the pushback that Democrats are getting when they continue to beat the dead horse of race and racism is you have now several generations that were raised to be colorblind and the Democrats realized they still needed race to maintain power, and a colorblind country would not allow them to maintain power by utilizing race, so they had to start stirring the pot again.
Well, let's think about this. Given
to the point where colorblind is no longer good enough.
No, that's right. And they've told us that you're not post-racial, right, if you're simply colorblind. But think about this. The representative said, and I think he's accurate in this, that I think most African-American voters feel more compelled, more drawn to an African-American candidate. But the point he was making is our white population hasn't gotten comfortable enough. Well, aren't we also saying that? If you're saying, hey, we got to have more black people so that black people can support them, aren't you saying the same there? So think about this. What if the composition of our race were reversed and we had 60 black, 40 white? Wouldn't we be saying the same thing, given that attitude? Well, yeah, a white candidate can't get elected because 60% of the population is black, and they tend to gravitate towards black candidates. We're saying that now with it being reversed, 60-40, where 40% is represented by black folks in our state. So I think that's bad all the way around. I'm not totally buying that either. I don't feel like that most white people in this day and age, I can't speak for 2003. Things have evolved a lot 23 years. You'd have to acknowledge that. But
I mean, just look at the average human lifespan. In 2003, the civil rights era had ended 35 years beforehand.
Yeah, that's right.
Think about how stable you were at the age of 35 compared to today, in the year of our Lord 2026, we are 58, almost 60 years away from the end of the civil rights era.
Yeah, so you still had some laggards in there.
What was your stability like at 58 compared to 35?
That's a good point. I agree.
Did you still think the same way you did at 58 that you did at 35?
I agree, and I certainly don't consider myself a spokesperson for all white people in our state, but I know personally I don't care about the race of a person. I care about all the things I believe you should care about, their qualifications, their skills, their experience, their policy positions, obviously, their vision. That's what's important. I don't really care about their race. I think I speak for most Mississippians, white Mississippians in that respect. I can't speak for the black folks in our state. I get the impression after I hear so many black people say that, oh, yeah, we can't draw Benny Thompson out because he's the only one we have. Okay, well, then what are you saying is that black people got to have black representation? I mean, something I've talked a lot about since this whole redistricting matter popped up. But that I just don't think most people care. I can say that I think this is true, Rhino, among the younger voters. They just have grown up, I think, more in a more integrated society, right? And I don't think they care. I really don't. I think they care about their leadership skills, their experience, their qualifications, their capabilities, their policy prescriptions and visions. That's what's important. It's what should be important. So I think we're largely past that. I really do. And you look at that Memphis district. How fascinating is that? You got a long-serving Democrat, Steve Cohen, who broke down and started crying this weekend because the drafting of the new district lines, it looks like it's going to make it hard for him to prevail. So he's out. Well, there's a strong possibility he's going to be replaced by an African-American female as a Republican. That just seems to refute the entire narrative right there. By the way, he's a pretty wealthy old white guy that's a Democrat and a Looney Tune on top of that, if you've ever heard any of his. So I don't align with Representative Cohen because we just don't agree on policy. He's just a big government, high tax, more regulation, more government giveaway guy. I don't agree with all that. So, and you even heard Representative Johnson, it seems to always boil down, where does the money go? I can't seem to get across it. We don't have it to start with. We're borrowing it. So it's not that I want to bring the money down from Washington so it can go to my preferred use versus other uses that he seems to indicate they're losing out on in Benny's district and so forth. And then he talks about Benny bringing money down. I don't know what the heck he's talking about there specifically, unless he's talking about ARPA funds, for example. Okay, great. So you supported the legislation that drove inflation to 9%. Thanks, Benny. Appreciate that. You
while
Biden Democrat.
Voting against the pumps while his constituents were underwater.
Correct. In a district that's losing population and is one of the poorest in the country. So, yeah, and then he's mad because the money it got allocated across the entire state. Well, that's all because of the way the ARPA law was drafted. You remember that. It explicitly indicated which counties and cities got money. All of them did, and in what amount. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
She's in love with me and I feel fine.
This show was previously recorded.
If you're a...
This show was previously recorded.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Folks, if you have any travel plans coming up that involves flying on Southwest Airlines, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you won't be able to take your robot along. You have seen this official policy that was released by Southwest Airlines. They will no longer allow robot passengers to board their planes in the cabin or as checked baggage, regardless of size. Officially, it prevents customers from transporting any human-like or animal-like robots. Southwest defines a human-like robot as one that is designed to resemble or imitate a human in its appearance, movement, or behavior. Oh, gosh. Incredible that you even see this. But evidently crazy people are taking them along on the airplanes.
Well, it was just one crazy person.
Okay, and that prompted the policy.
It was Aaron Medizada.
Okay.
Owner of the Robot Studio in North Dallas, Texas. He was returning from Las Vegas when he brought along his 3.5-foot tall humanoid robot, Stewie.
Stewie. And did Stewie cause a little bit of a ruckus there? Or what?
Walked straight through the airport, boarded the plane and everything, and the TSA had some concerns about its battery size, so they put a smaller battery in, but now Southwest is going, hang on. We already have security and health concerns with flying with any kind of lithium-ion battery. We really don't need one in the passenger cabin with the people while they're flying.
I'm looking at a video of it walking down the jetway on the plane down the aisle, and somebody is filming the passengers, and their reaction is priceless.
The guy that owns the robot says it's all a big hoopla over nothing because it uses a similar battery size to a laptop battery, and you can have those in the cabin.
Okay. Stewie. That is so good. So Southwest says no more robots on the airplanes. Oh, my gosh.
Mediza just said he hopes Southwest will reconsider the restriction and eventually allow humanoid robots to fly again as long as they meet safety requirements.
I just can't make it up, man. So, also, while we were on the break, the president just announced an endorsement in the Texas Senate battle. That's between Attorney General Ken Paxton and incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Let's see, the runoffs next Tuesday, right? You looked it up for us yesterday, I believe. And the president has endorsed Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, over incumbent John Cornyn. President is out to replace some incumbents, is he not? And, of course, today the big race all eyes are on in Kentucky, and as a result of its profile being elevated significantly, the money is pouring in. Like $32 million. That's a bunch for a House seat in a state like Kentucky in particular.
And there's a bit of an oddity surrounding the coverage of Thomas Massie.
Yeah?
Because there's been scuttlebutt thrown around all over social media for the last 48 to 72 hours regarding a certain sex scandal and sex scandal allegations hurled his way. Included in the scandal are leaked text messages purportedly from Thomas Massie, with interviews being conducted with his accuser and all that kind of stuff. But you don't see much, if at all, any coverage in the mainstream media.
Yeah, exactly.
When's the last time a prominent Republican had any whiff of a sex scandal that wasn't covered by the mainstream media?
Exactly. But
Just seems weird to me.
I agree with you on that. It's incredible, though. But
you've had Republicans that were not even remotely close to being, what's the correct phrase, credibly accused.
Yeah.
And they got their name dragged through mud for weeks on end by the mainstream media. But this guy has somebody come out and say, yeah, he was sleeping with me and sleeping with her and doing this and that and the other, and not a whisper.
Maybe we've been desensitized to that sort of behavior to the point where nobody cares, which is, I think, kind of sad because character, I do believe, is important. And that, I think, calls that into question for sure. Also, the Mississippi Democratic Party apparently had a little response to the governor's cancellation of special session today and gathered up down around the Capitol at 10 o'clock when we went live. Coming right back. Stay with us after.
This show was previewed.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.